I've always loved Halloween. I mean, really loved it. It's the one night you can be anything or anyone else. Back in 2015, I was 19, and the entire world was obsessed with one thing: The Walking Dead. Season 6 had just started, and zombie culture was at its absolute peak. So naturally, when Halloween rolled around, I knew exactly what I was going to be. I spent weeks on that costume. I didn't just slap on some torn clothes and fake blood. I got the weathered jacket, the distressed jeans, and spent hours on the makeup, prosthetic wounds, rotting skin texture, that gray-green pallor of death. I even added contact lenses to make my eyes cloudy and dead-looking. By the time October 31st hit, I thought I looked incredible. The plan was simple: meet my friends Tyler and Rachel, hit a few house parties, then head to a massive costume contest at a club downtown. The night started exactly as you'd hope. The city was electric with costume crowds everywhere. Around 11 p.m., we were at a packed house party in an unfamiliar neighborhood. I went to grab another drink, and when I came back, Tyler and Rachel were gone. I waited 20 minutes, tried calling, nothing. Annoyed, I decided to just meet them at the club. The club was only about 10 blocks away, but I was in a residential area I didn't know well. I pulled out my phone to check Google Maps. The route showed a lot of winding side streets, but I saw a shortcut, a long, narrow alley that cut directly behind a row of businesses and came out right onto the main street. It would cut the walk in half. Looking back, it's always the stupid, impatient decisions that get you. The alley was narrow, dark, and smelled like stale beer and garbage. The only light came from a single flickering orange security lamp about halfway down. My footsteps echoed on the wet pavement. I was about halfway through when I saw him. He was standing in the shadows ahead, perfectly still, blocking the path. He was dressed as Satan, and it wasn't some cheap costume from a party store. This was elaborate, realistic red body paint or a full suit, massive curved horns, a long tail, and what looked like theatrical contact lenses that glowed in the dim light. He was a big guy too, broad shoulders, tall, imposing. My first thought was, awesome costume. I was still in party mode. Nice look, man, I said, my voice echoing. But you're kind of blocking the way. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there, his back partially to me, head tilted at an unnatural angle. A flicker of unease hit me. Hey, excuse me, I said, moving to squeeze past him on his left. The second I was level with him, his arm shot out like a trap. He grabbed my throat, not my shoulder, my throat. The speed was terrifying. In one motion, he had me by the neck and slammed me against the brick wall. My head cracked against the brick hard enough to make stars explode behind my eyes. I tried to yell, but it came out as a choked wheeze. His grip was unbelievable. This wasn't a drunk guy messing around. This was focused violence. What? I gurgled, clawing at the gloved hand around my windpipe. He leaned in close. Even through the makeup and mask, I could see his eyes. They were wide, bloodshot, absolutely insane. The smell hit me then. Not just alcohol, but something else. Something acrid, maybe sulfur from costume effects mixed with cheap whiskey. He wasn't laughing or joking. He was growling, a low, guttural sound from deep in his chest. And he started to squeeze harder. My brain went into pure panic. This wasn't a game. I was being murdered. Please, I choked out. I can't breathe. His other hand came up and slammed into my stomach, pinning me tighter against the wall. My feet barely touched the ground. I kicked uselessly against his legs. Black spots danced in my vision. I had maybe 10 seconds of consciousness left, and then it happened. The thing I'm most ashamed of, the thing that saved my life. My body, flooded with absolute terror, just gave up control. I felt the warmth spreading down my legs before I even realized what was happening. I pissed myself, completely. The hot liquid soaked through my distressed jeans, ran down my legs, pooled in my shoes. And some of it, God, some of it splashed onto him. Onto his red costume, onto his legs, onto those elaborate Satan boots. For a split second, everything stopped. His grip didn't loosen, but his focus shifted. He looked down, confused, disgusted. His face contorted, not in rage anymore, but in revulsion. "You," he started to say, his voice raspy and horrible. That moment of distraction was all I had. With every molecule of survival instinct left in my oxygen-starved body, I brought my hand up and jammed my thumb as hard as I could into his eye. Not the fake theatrical contact lens, the actual eye beneath it. He roared, a sound of pure agony that echoed off the alley walls like something from hell itself. His hands flew open. I hit the pavement hard in a puddle of my own urine, gasping, dragging in the filthy alley air like it was pure oxygen. I looked up. He was clutching his face with both hands, stumbling backward, making sounds I'll never forget, half screaming, half growling. But even through his pain, even wounded, he was already turning back toward me. He wasn't running away. He was furious. He reached for something on his belt and pulled out a knife, a real 6-inch blade that caught the orange light. I didn't think. I just ran. I scrambled to my feet, slipping in my own piss, my soaked jeans heavy and cold. I sprinted for the end of the alley. My legs felt like jelly. I heard his heavy footsteps pounding behind me, slightly uneven now, but still terrifyingly fast. I burst out onto the main street and collided with a group of people, taking 2 of them down. It was a group of girls in various costumes. I was hysterical, on my hands and knees, my zombie makeup now streaked with real sweat and tears. And the smell. God, the smell of urine was unmistakable. "He has a knife!" I screamed, my voice raw and broken. "Satan! He tried to kill me!" The girls stared at me. Other people stopped. They looked at me, this pathetic zombie on the sidewalk, reeking of piss and fear. Then they looked at the alley. There was no one there. He was gone. "Whoa, dude," said a guy helping me up, immediately recoiling from the smell. "You okay? Did you have an accident?" "No, you don't understand," I pleaded, trying not to notice the wet stain all down my pants. "He tried to choke me. He had a knife." People looked at me with pity, disgust, or annoyance. One girl wrinkled her nose and whispered something to her friend. They both laughed. "Maybe you should head home, man," the guy said, trying to be kind but stepping away from me. "Get cleaned up, yeah?" I stood there shaking, surrounded by hundreds of people, never feeling more alone or humiliated in my life. I never made it to the club. I limped to a 24-hour diner, my jeans squelching with every step. I locked myself in the bathroom, tried to clean up as best I could with paper towels, then sat in a booth until sunrise, still in costume, drinking coffee, and smelling like shame. The next day, I went to the police. The officer looked at my faded zombie makeup and the dark bruises around my neck. I told him everything, except the part about pissing myself. I just couldn't. He tried to be professional, but I could see it in his eyes. A guy in a Satan costume attacked you in an alley on Halloween? They took a report, said they'd look into it. I never heard from them again. It's been 10 years. I don't love Halloween anymore. I can't even watch The Walking Dead, because I know the truth. Masks aren't just for fun. For some people, they're permission. That guy wasn't playing a character. He was using the one night of the year when he could be his real, monstrous self, hidden in plain sight as the devil himself. I don't know if I was his first. I just know I was lucky. My body's most primal fear response, the thing that humiliated me more than anything in my life, probably saved my life. But the scariest part, the part that still keeps me up at night, is this. I was almost murdered by Satan on Halloween. I survived by pissing on the devil and gouging out his eye, and nobody even blinked. My name is Dr. Bennett Hawthorne, and I've been working the ER at Cook County Hospital for 18 years. I've seen everything. Gunshot wounds, overdoses, car wrecks that turn people into something unrecognizable. But the Halloween shift in 2023 taught me that the worst horror isn't what happens to the body. It's what happens to the soul when we stop seeing each other as human. October 31st started like every Halloween does in a Chicago ER, chaos wrapped in face paint and fake blood. By 7 p.m., we had 3 drunk college kids, 2 costume-related injuries, never wear flowing capes near open flames, and one guy who thought eating a ghost pepper was a good party trick. My phone buzzed. Marigold, my wife, sent a photo. Our daughter Lily, 12, dressed as Wednesday Addams, and Owen, 9, in an inflatable dinosaur costume. "Heading to the Millennium Park Parade. Love you." I smiled and pocketed my phone. Another 16 hours to go. Around 9:30 p.m., the bay doors crashed open. 2 paramedics rushed in, wheeling a gurney. Jane Doe, unresponsive, found at the parade, the older one, Rodriguez reported. Vitals are weak. Suspected overdose. I looked down at the woman. Mid-30s, petite, dressed in an elaborate zombie bride costume. Tattered white dress, theatrical makeup with gray foundation, black circles around her eyes, fake blood crusted on her lips, and the costume was impressive. Too impressive. Where'd you find her? I asked, checking her pupils. Pinpoint. Opioids, definitely. Millennium Park, near the fountain, lying on the grass. Crowd thought she was part of the decorations. How long was she there? Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably. Best guess, couple hours. People were taking pictures with her. My stomach turned. Get me a tox screen, CBC, and prep for Narcan. As we worked, I noticed details. Her hands were dirty, grass-stained, bruises on her arms. Her fingers had indentations. Someone had stepped on her hand. The zombie makeup couldn't hide how pale she was underneath, how blue her lips were beneath the fake blood. No ID, no phone, the nurse, Patricia, reported. Just the costume. We pushed Narcan. Once. Twice. On the third dose, she gasped, eyes flying open. She grabbed my coat with surprising strength, pulling me close. Her voice was a rasp. They walked over me. I screamed. They laughed, thought I was playing. Then she slipped back under. I stepped back, hands shaking. Patricia gave me a look. Doctor? Keep her stable. I need to see something. I went to security, asked for footage from Millennium Park. The guard, a guy named Jim, who I'd helped once with chest pains, pulled it up without questions. The timestamp read 6:47 p.m. There she was, stumbling from the public bathroom, clearly impaired. She made it about 20 feet before collapsing on the grass near a cluster of decorative tombstones. And then, nothing. For 3 hours, people walked past. Around her, some stepped over her. A group of teenagers took selfies, posing with the realistic zombie prop. One kid, maybe 7, kicked her leg. Wake up, zombie, his parents laughed. I watched a young couple stop, examine her, debate. The girl pulled out her phone, not to call 911, but to take a photo. They posted it and moved on. I watched my city, my people, treat a dying woman like Halloween decor. Jesus, Jim muttered. At 2 a.m., we finally got an ID. Jessica Ramirez, 34, single mother of 2. Her emergency contact was a neighbor who said Jessica had been struggling since her divorce last year. Lost her job, behind on rent, showing signs of depression. Her kids, 7 and 4, were with a babysitter who thought Jessica was at work. I called the police, social services. Stood there as the machinery of crisis intervention kicked in. Jessica remained stable but unresponsive. The toxicology confirmed what I suspected: fentanyl and alcohol, a lethal combination that she'd somehow survived. By 5 a.m., I needed air. Stepped outside where the streets were littered with candy wrappers and empty beer cans. My phone buzzed. Marigold. Home safe. Kids had amazing time. Owen ate too much candy. He's crashed on the couch. Another text, this time from Lily. Dad, look what I posted. I opened Instagram. My daughter's story showed her and Owen at the park. There, in the background, clearly visible, was a figure lying on the grass. Jessica. My children had been there. Had they walked past her too? Had Owen jumped over her playing tag? Had Lily stopped to look? My hands went numb. I called Marigold. Were you guys at the fountain by the tombstone decorations? Yeah, around 8:30. Why? Did you see a woman? Zombie bride costume lying on the grass? Silence. Then quietly. Bennett, we thought it was a prop. She looked so real. Owen wanted to take a picture, but I said it was disrespectful to the actors. She wasn't acting, Marigold. She was dying. I'm treating her right now. I heard Marigold's breath catch. Oh my God. Bennett, she wasn't moving. There was no sign. I know, I said, but my voice sounded hollow. Nobody knew. I went back inside. Jessica had been moved to ICU, psychiatric hold pending. Her kids were with social services. I finished my shift, did my charts, briefed to the day team. Normal procedure. But nothing was normal. I drove home at 7:30 a.m., the sun already bright, Halloween decorations looking ridiculous in daylight. Marigold had coffee waiting. The kids were at the table, Owen still in his dinosaur costume, Lily scrolling on her phone. "Dad," Owen bounced over. "We got so much candy, and we saw this super cool zombie. She was lying down and everything, like actually dead." My throat closed. "Yeah, buddy? She was the best. Everyone was taking pictures." He mimed taking a photo, grinning. Lily looked up. She was trending on TikTok for like an hour, had best costume ever. I posted her on my story, got 53 likes. I sat down slowly. "Lily, can you show me?" She pulled up the video. There was Jessica, clearly visible in the background, as my daughter filmed herself and friends. In the video, someone's foot enters the frame, a Nike sneaker, kids septième, stepping within inches of Jessica's head. Owen's shoes. Marigold saw my face. "Kids, go brush your teeth." After they left, I told her everything. The bruises, the footprints, the security footage, the fact that Jessica had been conscious, screaming, and everyone thought it was part of the act. "Bennett, what do we do?" Marigold's voice broke. "How do we tell them?" "I don't know," I admitted. "They're kids. They didn't mean. They posted it online. They made her suffering into content." That was the worst part. Not the walking past. That was ignorance. But the filming, the posting, the liking, turning a human tragedy into social currency. I made Marigold delete Lily's post. I sat our kids down and told them, age appropriately, that the zombie lady had been very sick, that she needed help, and that sometimes things that look fake are real. Lily cried. Owen didn't really understand, but I understood. I understood that we'd built a world where a woman could lie dying in public for 3 hours during a parade attended by thousands, and nobody called 911 because she looked too good, because we've trained ourselves to see spectacle instead of suffering. Jessica survived, recovered enough for the psychiatric facility. Her kids went to her sister in Indiana. She'll carry the trauma of that night forever, of being invisible, of being entertainment, of nearly dying while people smiled and took photos. I still work Halloween shifts. Can't avoid them. But every costume now makes me look twice. Every prop makes me step closer. And I've taught my kids something I never thought I'd have to teach. Check if the body is breathing. Because in a world where we dress up death as decoration, sometimes the only thing scarier than monsters is us. Bennett Clayton, Bennett Hawthorne. This happened 16 years ago, back in 2005. I was 12 years old, 5 years old, living with my mom and little brother Jake in Tacoma, Washington. Even now, as an adult working in cybersecurity, I can't celebrate Halloween without that cold knot forming in my stomach. It all goes back to that rainy October night in our split-level house on Proctor Street. A week before Halloween, I found a letter in our mailbox. No stamp, no return address. Just my name written in careful block letters on a plain white envelope. Inside was a single sentence. "Be careful on Halloween night." I showed it to my mom, but she was exhausted from her night shifts at Providence Medical Center. "Probably just kids playing pranks," she said, tossing it in the trash. I should mention Damian Cole. He lived next door with his grandmother, a quiet 13-year-old who always seemed to be watching from his bedroom window. We weren't really friends, but sometimes he'd ask me questions. "What time did my mom leave for work? When did we usually go trick-or-treating?" I thought he was just making conversation. I was wrong. Halloween night came with typical Pacific Northwest weather, cold rain and thick fog rolling in from Puget Sound. My mom decided we'd go out early, around 6 o'clock, before the weather got worse. Jake was 7, dressed as Spider-Man, and I went as a ninja. We made our rounds through the neighborhood, our bags filling with candy, while the rain soaked through our costumes. By 8 o'clock, we were miserable and cold. Mom made the call. "Let's go to Blockbuster, rent some movies, and have a cozy night in." We piled into our 2002 Honda Accord and drove to the store on 6th Avenue. Jake picked some cartoon movie, and I remember grabbing The Legend of Zorro. The smell of popcorn and plastic cases, the bright fluorescent lights, it felt safe and normal. We got home around 9:15. Our house was a 1970s split level with an attached garage on the left side. Ranger, our 5-year-old German Shepherd, greeted us at the door with his usual enthusiasm. He'd been in the basement while we were out, and he seemed more agitated than usual. "Probably hates being cooped up," Mom said, patting his head. We settled into the living room. Mom popped Zorro into the DVD player while Jake and I dumped our candy on the coffee table, sorting and trading. The rain drummed steadily against the windows. Fog pressed against the glass like something trying to get in. We were maybe 30 minutes into the movie when Ranger started going crazy, not his normal bark when someone walks by. This was frantic, aggressive, primal. He was in the kitchen, facing the door that led to the garage, and he was throwing himself against it, snarling, clawing at the wood. "Ranger, stop!" Mom got up, annoyed. She looked out the front window. "There's nobody out there, boy. Calm down." But he didn't calm down. He kept attacking that door like there was a wolf on the other side. The sound was so intense we had to turn the TV volume way up. Jake started crying, scared of our own dog. "Something's wrong with him," I said. My heart was pounding. I remembered that letter. "Be careful." Then I smelled it. Sharp, chemical, wrong. "Mom," I said slowly, "do you smell that?" She sniffed the air. Her face changed. "Is that gasoline?" She ran to the garage door. A thin line of black smoke was curling underneath it. She touched the door handle and jerked her hand back. "It's hot! Oh God, it's hot!" Everything happened fast after that. Mom grabbed Jake with one hand and Ranger's collar with the other. "Marcus, move! Get to the neighbor's house now!" We ran out into the cold rain. I didn't grab shoes, didn't grab my phone, nothing. We sprinted across the wet grass to the Johnsons' house next door. Mom was pounding on their door, screaming for them to call 911. Mr. Johnson opened up, took one look at us, and didn't ask questions. His wife was already on the phone with emergency services. Through their front window, we watched orange flames start to flicker through our garage windows. The fire department arrived within 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. Jake was sobbing in Mom's arms. Ranger pressed against my leg, still growling low in his throat. I watched my house burn, the rain doing nothing to stop those flames. 4 hours. That's how long it took to put out completely. The garage was destroyed. The living room was heavily damaged. The basement, miraculously, was mostly intact. Our bedrooms upstairs had smoke and water damage, but were structurally sound. A fire investigator came over while we sat in the Johnsons' kitchen, wrapped in borrowed blankets. "This was arson," he said bluntly. "Someone poured gasoline along your garage door and lit it. We found a gas can in the bushes. The rain probably slowed the fire down, gave you folks extra time to get out." My parents were divorced, and he lived in Seattle, arrived around 2 in the morning. He looked at what was left of our house and just stood there in the rain, silent. "Dad," I said, "I got a letter, a warning about Halloween." I told him everything, about the letter, about Damien's questions, about how he was always watching from his window. Dad's face went hard. He called the fire investigator over. "Here's the thing about my dad. He was a security systems installer, very early adopter of home security cameras. He'd installed a basic system at our house 6 months earlier. The recording box was in the basement, in a fireproof safe. The investigators recovered it. The footage showed everything. At 9:43 p.m., while we were watching Zorro, a figure appeared in our driveway. The camera angle and fog made it hard to see details, but you could make out a tall, thin person carrying a large container. They walked up to the garage, looked around, then systematically poured liquid all along the garage door. Then, a bright flash as they lit it, and the person ran off toward the street. The police moved fast. They checked local gas stations and found something interesting. Tyler Morrison, a 17-year-old kid, had purchased 2 gallons of gasoline at the Shell station on Pearl Street at 7:15 p.m. on Halloween night, paid cash. The station's camera got his face clearly. Tyler lived 3 blocks away. He was Damien Cole's cousin. When the police questioned Tyler, he broke down immediately. He confessed everything. Damien had approached him 2 weeks earlier with a plan. Damien told him he wanted to scare the family next door. Said we'd been mean to him, which was a complete lie. He offered Tyler $300 and said it would be easy and no one would get hurt. Tyler was a dropout working minimum wage. He was desperate and stupid enough to believe a 13-year-old kid's lies. But when the police questioned Damien with his grandmother present, the truth came out. There was no grudge, no revenge. Damien had been watching our family for months. He'd kept a notebook in his room with our schedules, our routines. He'd written things like experiment and observe reactions and control outcomes. The psychologist who evaluated him later said Damien showed signs of conduct disorder with callous traits. He'd wanted to see if he could make something terrible happen, if he could control life and death. We were just convenient targets. Damien was charged as a juvenile. Tyler, being 17, faced adult charges for arson and attempted murder. Both went to juvenile detention, though I don't know for how long. We moved to Seattle 6 months later. My mom couldn't stand living in that house anymore, even after repairs. Here's what still haunts me. We were supposed to be out until 11 p.m. That was the plan. If the weather had been nice, we would have stayed out longer. We would have come home to a fully engulfed house, maybe too late to escape. The rain saved us. Rangers training, my dad had taught him to alert to unusual smells, saved us. That broken routine saved us. I think about the version of that night where everything went according to Damien's plan, where a bored, broken teenager succeeded in his experiment, where my little brother, my mother, and I became statistics. I work in cybersecurity now. I install cameras, firewalls, alarm systems. I help people protect themselves from threats they can't see coming. Maybe it's my way of processing what happened. Maybe I'm still that 12-year-old kid who didn't see the monster next door. The worst part isn't the fire. It's knowing that evil doesn't always look like a monster in a mask. Sometimes it's a quiet kid watching from a window, writing in a notebook, planning your death with the same focus other kids use for video games. That's the real horror. And that's why Halloween will never feel safe again.